What up, good people? I just love that opening, by the way. I get tickled every time I watch it.
Who created that? The
I
music.
did.
The music?
I did.
It's nice. Good
Thank
job.
you. Thank you. I show my talents every now and then.
Are you taking customers?
What you need, girl?
What I need.
Talk after this.
Okay. So, hello, everybody. Happy Wednesday. Hopefully, everybody is doing well. As you can see, I'm a lot cheerier, a lot happier this week. Organic. Hopefully, everybody is having a good week so far. So, if you're new, I'm Nikki, and we're gonna go around the board and have everybody introduce themselves.
I'm Kyle.
I'm Elena.
And I'm Les.
I knew he was gonna go last.
I feel like I need like an intro statement, like the Housewives or something. My name isn't enough.
Your name is absolutely plenty. So, I know most of you have probably heard the audio of Kurt Franklin.
I haven't heard it yet.
What? Cheese and crackers. You gonna make me do this, aren't you?
I try to stay away from sin.
I haven't heard it either. I heard about it, but not heard it.
All right, hold on, y'all. I gotta go ahead and pull it up for y'all. Cheese and
Stay
crackers.
away from profanity and cussing and sin.
You know what? Don't start. Don't
Fornication.
start.
Lasciviousness, whatever the word is.
Don't start.
Lasciviousness. But that's
Lascivious.
right. You keep it holy over there.
Yeah, we keep it holy.
Mm-hmm. All right, so I don't know if y'all gonna be able to hear it, but
Was it a black spasm?
I don't think it was.
I did hear him apologize, right?
And to me, that was his mistake. He shouldn't have apologized.
Yeah, I'm gonna say some things. I think I'm gonna get Elena riled up today. She may reevaluate our relationship after this.
All right, hold on. I found it. Let me see if I can share it. Hey, Diana. Welcome to the show. All right, share screen.
Is Diana new?
No, you read Diana.
Oh, hey, what's going on? Oh, I forgot that was last week, right? Okay.
Right. All right. Let me know if y'all can hear this, okay?
No, I can't hear anything.
Oh, dang. All right, hold on. Let me see. Hold on. I'm starting it over. Come on, thing. Stop acting that way.
Yeah, I can't hear anything.
Jeez.
You can paraphrase.
Oh, I'm mad that y'all can't hear it. Hold on. I don't know why it does that. basically his son, mommy. Sorry, my mom keeps calling me. She knows I'm on. So basically, Kurt has had a very tumultuous relationship with his son, and his son decided that he wanted to record the so-called abuse that Kurt has unleashed on him. So Kurt said that he would beat, and I'm not paraphrasing, he would beat his motherfucking ass. He called him a bitch ass nigga, and he would put
a bitch ass nigga.
Yeah, and he said he would put his foot in his motherfucking ass.
Okay.
Why?
So I don't know, but Kurt apologized or whatever after, and I'm just like, why are you apologizing? Like, I get it. Your kids can take you to that point. This boy is 33 years old. He's not a little kid. And he's been crying. I've been on my own since I was 18. Okay, and you're an adult at that point in the eyes of the law. So my thing is, don't try to embarrass your parent when you're not giving us the entire truth. So there was a reason that Kurt flipped out. We don't know what it is. But my thing is, that's like if I provoke you and then you strike and then I record it and then I release it and I want all this sympathy. Well, it backfired for the son because everybody was defending Kurt. Because when you've got kids of age, you understand that language. My mama cussed me out all the time. So it wasn't no big thing for me. I was just like, oh, okay, he got cussed out, big deal. And I was just like, I don't know. So he tried to defend the next day why he put it out there. And then he was like, I see that, my father apologized to his fans, but he didn't apologize to me. Well, what you did was wrong. In my opinion, what he did was wrong. When you have family issues, you don't air your dirty laundry. You keep your dirty laundry in the house. I just felt like what he did was inappropriate. So, and then I went on his IG page and I was just like, I didn't know if it was a stunt to try to get money because he has a business and he's got his Cash App, please donate this, that, and the other. And I was like, well, did he do it in hopes that people will have sympathy for him and try and support him and this, that, and the other? Like, you don't just out the blue record your dad and throw him to the wolves like that. And he's saying that his dad has been doing this to him for the past 15 years. Okay, but why? You don't, as a parent, you don't just wake up one day and be like, oh, I can't stand you. I'm going to cuss you out every day. There's more to the story than that. And, the fact that we're not getting the whole story, I can't feel bad for you. Now, if the whole story comes out and the boy is innocent and Kurt's the jerk, then I will reverse how I feel. But right now, no, I don't. Now, he might not have. There have been pastors that have spoken out on this. And one pastor was like, listen, he said, it's better for me to cuss you out than for me to put these hands on you and end up under the jail. He was like, as a parent, I understand. As a father, as a pastor, I understand. He was like, that doesn't mean that Kurt's, excuse me, that doesn't mean that Kurt's not saved anymore, that Kurt doesn't love the Lord anymore. It means he's human. And, so it was like this big debate. And my thing is, Christians can be so judgmental. I'm a Christian. I love God. I have a relationship with God. But I also know I have a mouth like a sailor. That doesn't mean that I don't hear God's voice. That doesn't mean that, God's like, oh, you curse, so I can't mess with you. I'm working on it. I'm human. It's part of who I am. I've gotten better because I used to be worse. But, it's like the ones that want to cancel Kurt. That was what it was. They wanted to cancel Kurt. It's like the ones that want to cancel, like, would you stand up to scrutiny if somebody took a spotlight and shown it in your closet? Like, would you have skeletons falling out? So my thing is, you know, I think I not quoted, but I think I posted Luke 7 verses 1 through 5, and it's just like, you don't have the right to judge anybody else. And the last time I checked, you weren't God, and you don't have a heaven or hell to put anybody in. So who are you to judge, you know, somebody else? That was just my take. I just, you know, it's like the minute a Christian or a pastor or a gospel singer does something, everybody wants to jump on this bandwagon. And it's like, come on, man. Nobody's perfect. Jesus was the only perfect man to walk this earth. And he not walking the earth no more. So we all fall within of the short. We all fall short of the glory of God. So that's just how I feel.
I'm not sure how to feel because it seems like at you have a 33-year-old adult and you feel like you have to speak to him in that manner like that anybody else on the street. I'm wondering what happened, you know, from 0 to 18 to get us to the last 15 years of chaos. So, you know, I can't weigh in on it because I don't know what he was trying to, I don't know what Kurt was trying to get accomplished. And since I don't know what he was trying to get accomplished, it's hard to say whether it was right, wrong, or indifferent. I don't know why he reacted that way. You know, it just seems, you know, if you threaten violence on your child, then it has to be something pretty extreme. I just don't know what that is. So it's hard to weigh in, you know, on whether he overreacted or not.
I personally think that, and that was the other thing. So then the son was like, well, I don't want to release the entire recording because I'm going through so much. But why release that much? That's why I'm saying just the stuff that the son was saying, it doesn't add up. And
one point, Nikki, in this society, if you look at the last real 3 strong years where people are committing crimes, look at January 6th. These guys broke into the Capitol and are posting it probably from the Capitol or seconds later. The kids are committing crimes on you and posting it on YouTube. So people are incriminating themselves. So then incriminating someone else is not even an issue. I mean, that it's all an attention seeking motivation that I think is a little bit beyond us because we didn't grow up in this, you know, atmosphere.
Right. I mean, my mother, she threatened bodily harm against me all the time. She never acted on it. It was just what we call, you know, tough talk. You know what I'm saying? And I'm not screwed up over it. But from what Kurt was saying, they've had trouble with him for a very long time. What that trouble is, I don't know. But I went and I looked at his Instagram page, and I don't know. It just seems like, well, I can't say that because then I would be making a judgment, and I don't want to do that. But something, it just doesn't. The whole thing doesn't add up. So you release that part, but then you say you don't want to release the whole thing because it's embarrassing. Well, you don't think that part is embarrassing too? So that's my point. Why release any of it? If you're not gonna release the whole truth, and I believe that maybe he baited him. You know, certain people push your buttons, and I believe that the son baited his dad because Kurt said he felt disrespected, and he kept this is something that's been part of the relationship, that the son constantly disrespects the father. So I mean, all I can say is I understand, because when something that has come out of your body that you have raised past the age of 18 decides they want to break bad and disrespect you, it's a whole different. Whew, Jesus, I'm speaking from experience. So I mean, I guess that's where this passion comes from, because I've had it, and it's just like, you kind of take a step back, like, I know you wasn't just talking to me like that. Because number one, I know how I raised you. And number two, who do you think you are? Number three, I will stomp the life out of you. I get it. I listen, I get it. I tried my mama. But see, I tried her when I was like 17. When I turned like 18, 19, 20, it was different. You know what I'm saying? I had a different respect for my mom because it was like, okay, well now I'm an adult, I'm doing things on my own. So I don't know. Les, you mighty quiet.
I'm waiting for Elena to say something.
I don't know what you want me to say. Look, people are talking about, well, my parents cussed me out all the time when I was little. You know, the reality is I can't say that was my reality. My parents never cussed me out. So I don't have that frame of reference. But I think what's disturbing about what you hear is far beyond like the choice of words used. Like, it's obvious there's a huge fracture in their relationship and that there's serious issues. And like you said, I wonder like what precipitated all of this, like what led up to this, what has this grown 33-year-old man done, and what did he do to disrespect Kurt? Not a parent, but I'm sure parents can be pushed by kids, you know, and I think that I appreciated that he apologized. I don't know that I actually do feel like he may have felt like, okay, I don't like what my son did. I wish maybe I hadn't taken it that far, but I don't know. I don't have if I'm really being honest with you, I don't really care that much. I've been more entertained by some of the memes that I've seen coming out. Like, now behold these hands. I thought that was
so there was
and
one.
all of the remakes of Stomp. They have been pure hilarity. But
yes, it's gonna be a revolution. I've been cracking up, but it's just like you could hear the frustration in Kirk's voice, and I guess that's, as a parent, having been disrespected, you know, by my adult daughter, I understand that, and I could relate to somebody pushes your buttons, you know, pushes your buttons to the point where that's what it was. So when Kurt said something, he would put his foot in his butt or whatever. His son was like, "I dare you, I dare you," and I'm just like, "Oh, so now you really gonna beat your dad? That's what you gonna do? I mean, come on now, you don't." Nah, I mean, if I'd have said some crap like that to my mother, I'd have been getting up with no teeth in my mouth. I'm gonna tell you that right now.
Look, my mother never cussed me out, but I promise you, I'm scared of that lady.
I'm scared of mine too, to this day.
Arthritis and all. We never got the opportunity to try her like that. So I don't know how she responded because I never wanted to.
Well, my thing was, and this is what I feel that these kids now, they don't have any respect, because I wouldn't even begin to think to disrespect my mama. I mean, she used to, I swear it was like she was a mind reader. Like when you was thinking thoughts, and she's over there, I wish you would try. And I'd be like, I didn't know what I was thinking. So it was just like, nah, I mean, I'll be 49 this year. I ain't gonna try it.
But he didn't disrespect his mom. He disrespected his dad.
But the point is that I wouldn't have done it to, see, my dad was a disciplinarian. My dad was the one that laid them hands on that backside with that belt. So I already knew better. But my point is that I wouldn't have the unction to think to disrespect my parents.
But were they together? Like, was Kurt and his mother, they were together? So it was are they still together?
I believe so. So let me rephrase that. I don't know if the woman that Kurt is married to is
this guy's
son's, right? That part I don't know. Like, and honestly, I don't think we should know. That's why I say he shouldn't have aired their dirty laundry. It's nobody's business.
The story could be a lot more complex, like how 50 Cent doesn't talk to his son. And he's saying his mother has his son thinking a certain way about him, and he doesn't think that that's valid. So the son does disrespectful things that keep him away. So we don't know if his mother, X amount of these first 18 years has given him a view of Kurt that is not, not accurate, let's say.
Well, on the son's Instagram page, he posted photos of the entire family on Jet back in 1998 and I think 2008. And he was like, that's the last time. In the post, he was like, that's the last time that I was ever allowed to be filmed, photographed with the family and this, that, and the other. So from that, I was assuming that was like, his mom, because he didn't say, he didn't say that he called it the family. So I don't know.
Yeah, it sounds like he's on the outside looking in for some reason.
Mm-hmm. Sounds like he's got some issues. I'm sorry. I can't get around the fact that it looks like you set your dad up and you provoked him to anger, and then you taped him and you exposed him to the world. Like that's cruddy at best.
Yes, at most. It was that's what a lot of parents were saying. Like, why would you do that? That's just, but to me, it speaks volumes of the son's character.
And when you're an adult, things change when you grow up. Disrespecting your parents as a kid versus disrespecting your parents as an adult is real different. And I just feel like when you as an adult disrespect your adult parent, you get an adult response. That's what that looked like to me.
I really like Elena's viewpoint. I didn't think she was going to respond that way.
I mean, that's what it looked like. It looked like he came at his dad like a grown man, and his grown dad, midget of a father, came right back at him and said, "Look at here, we're not doing that." I don't know. We don't really know what's been going on, but I don't know. Let them people live.
Hey, sis. Okay, so welcome to the show. So Angelique says Kurt had this son when he was a teenager. Kurt is married and has kids with another woman, his current wife.
Makes sense.
Okay. But it's the son kept saying that Kurt kept telling him to go back to his family, and then the son said something like, he knows I don't know who my family is, and I'm just like, it didn't make sense. I don't know.
The new family does, though, and him not being him not feeling a part, and then whatever his mother has said to him about Kurt, that has in his formative years has played into their adult relationship.
And the other thing too is, if it seems like the son is wanting Kurt to fix it, and it might not be for Kurt to fix it, depending on what the issues are. And my thing is, sometimes you got to meet people halfway. Just like he said, well, he apologized to his fans, but he didn't apologize to me. Should you get an apology? You should be the one apologizing to him for what you did. And it just seems like he just wants the blame game seems to keep going around.
Kurt could be lying, but I mean, he really did come out and say that they're in therapy, and that in this very same call, he invited the therapist on the call. So I don't know. I think there's something that the son seems troubled and toxic, for lack of a better word. And honestly, it can, when a person is broken like that, they can be difficult to deal with. There's no reasoning with them. Everything is emotional. And if you've ever had to deal with someone who is completely irrational and mercurial and follows the whims of their ever-changing emotions, it is difficult to deal with. And like anybody can lose patience when you have to constantly deal with a personality like that. I think another thing that's difficult for parents and adult children sometimes parents make mistakes in their youth, and the parent has grown, and the child is still holding on to a hurt from an earlier stage in the parent's life. And it's like the parent wants to move on. And even though whatever they did may have contributed to the brokenness of the child, it kind of keeps, sometimes children try to keep their parents in bondage. The parents like, look, I can own it, but I've moved on, and I'm not going to allow you to hold me in that space. That was him 30 years ago. I mean, the father that he was 30 years ago, that man is not who he is today. So I don't know. The son looks like a very difficult character, but you really quiet, Les. I'd like to hear what you got to say.
I have a couple of different things to say because I'm taking in all the comments and with this conversation, and going back to never airing your dirty laundry out in public. Number one. Number two, why did Kurt feel it necessary to even respond to that publicly or apologize? We get caught up on words a lot of times. I don't think he should have apologized. Number three, we don't know the backstory. Number four, it could be a setup. It could be, it could be an opportunity, because this isn't the first time that Kurt has been caught up in some stuff. You know what I'm saying? And a lot of times when you go through things, you need that street credibility. You can't make it clean, and you gotta, he may make an album next week talking about, how I fucked up with my son. You know what I'm saying?
I'm pretty sure that's not gonna be the title. Okay?
He already put it out there.
But he's human. At the end of the day, he has emotions and feelings just like the rest of us.
But guess what?
And I'm like, what?
Don't nobody care. I mean, listen. You're right. Men who have fathers who have sons, they go through stuff like that. You know what I'm saying? I mean, sometimes the terminology isn't the same. Terminology isn't used, but they go through stuff like that. They use those words. I mean, they do fight. They do argue. She's right. But the fact, and this is, I'm not saying that we shouldn't be talking about it, but who cares? Because he's not the first person. I'm sure ain't gonna be the last person, And if people are getting caught up in words, we do use those words. Apologize because you use, don't apologize. If those are words that you use, those are the words that you use. I mean, yes, Elena.
Keep going.
So don't get on. I mean, he meant to say what he meant to say.
Mm-hmm.
He did what he wanted to do. And if he felt as though that was the best way to get his point across, that was the best way to get his point across. But I don't think that he should have come back on and apologized, for what?
I guess the apology to me was like,
all this shit started from slavery, by the way. I just need to
What'd you say, Les?
All this shit started from slavery. I blame slavery. You know what I'm saying?
I was actually about to go there with the conversation. If you take it back, the physical violence, he should, as an adult, I have a 19-year-old, so barely an adult child, but I'm trying to be more of a counselor. I'm not trying to tell you what to do, because you got to see the path and figure out right or left. Yeah. Me yelling at you is not going to help you acknowledge a path, seeing you're going down the wrong way of the path, and get on the new path. Me discussing that there's a path coming, you got to pick the path. So recognize it when you see it is going to be more advantageous to his development than me stressing anything. So being mad, being combative, and trying to be overbearing to a child that's trying to mature themselves into an adult, that's not how you do it. You know what I mean?
So you're sitting here right now, got the shiplap background, hat on, shades. Your 19-year-old son walks in the room, hauls off, smacks the crap out of you. Walk me through how you respond to that.
Oh yeah, well, physical violence is never tolerated. So
I'm whoop that
you
ass.
can't ever, you don't solve any problem. You can't solve any problems going around smacking people in the head.
Wait.
There has to be a physical lesson in that.
Wait,
that.
I don't mean to cut you off. You can have it for after I say this. I have a good buddy of mine. I'm going to mention his name on the air. His name is Orvin Wright, right?
Orban what?
Orvin Wright.
Okay.
This is what he said to me. And I told him, if he dies before me, then I want to say this at his eulogy. Sometimes a good ass whooping will make a bear change swamps.
Hello? You don't know? You don't know?
Go back to you, Kyle. You got it.
Yeah, no, that in your example, I would definitely you have to regulate the situation. And that's one thing that men know.
How do you regulate that though, Kyle?
You cave his chest in.
Yeah, no, you'd have to you're gonna have to feel me. So it's hard for me to, I guess, to walk you through it because I can't even imagine it happened. And I don't know what I would feel that I would have to inflict upon my child to let him know never to slap me in the face again. I'm not gonna kill him.
So I mean, we're talking about a physical situation, but I only asked because for me, it wasn't just his choice of words; it was the power behind it. Like it was aggressive, and so I wonder what precipitated that. So I was just curious, like how you would respond if you were placed in a similar situation. All I can tell you is my mother's a God-fearing woman. Like I said, never cussed me out. But even as a teenager, when I said something backhanded to me, to her, one hand on the steering wheel, this hand went back up.
Well, I was skipping the beat. She didn't take her eyes off the road.
Didn't take her eyes off the road. Like, oh, that's what time it is.
So it's just,
but I violated. I gotta own my part. You know what I said was I went further left than I should have. Anyway, I was just I don't know. I was picking on you, Kyle, because I'm like, that sounds good, but when
yeah, but I feel for my son to have that type of response, he would have got that from somewhere. So he would have seen me do it. He will have probably done it himself to someone else. So that behavior would be, I think, I would probably have a better answer for you because I would already be engaging in that type of activity. You know what I mean? So
I think we need to go back to the comment Ms. Brown Eye said.
I was getting ready to do that.
There's too many unknown variables. You know.
Mm-hmm.
And it's hard for us to try to do this algebra problem when we don't know everything that's going on. You know.
Well, I brought it up because I wanted to talk about parents and children's, relationships. So I just wanted to. That was just a segue into that part of the show.
Well, if you go back to if you know any of Kirk's background, he was adopted, right? From my understanding, I could be wrong. So he's probably dealing with some things within himself. And as I'm looking at his name and I'm pinpointing certain parts of his energy, the sensitivity, the humanitarian side of him, if that's his real name. And so therefore, there is that opportunity for him to, to kirk out like that, especially if, being a parent, if you've given your child everything that you have and some more, and then they come across as being very unappreciative. One thing, but if you are the parent and you are your child's first bully, based on being bullied by your parents, and your parenting skills or ways that you parent are having a negative impact on your child, when they react, not respond, when they react out of how they feel, it touches a nerve with you. I'm fortunate, right now, I mean, at having a child of 42 years old, instead of 18, 19, and 20, when you're a kid yourself, you're trying to be an adult when you're really a kid. And, I heard this sister say once before, she said, my 40-year-old self had to go back and apologize to my daughter regarding me and my 20-year-old self. And I was raising you, I had you when I was 20. So there was things that I didn't know how to. But when your parental skills or parenting skills is having an impact on your child now, and this may be what's going on between Kurt and his son. It could be both of them may be suffering with abandonment issues, hurt, and just listen to the dialogue between them. It's some deep rooted issues going on with them, and once again, I blame it on slavery. You know what I'm saying?
Well, I wonder. So how it seems like it's the reverse here. So how women have issues with the dad's father, so they instill all this whatever in the child. And I'm wondering if that's reversed, because for me it was with my biological father. He wasn't in the picture because he chose not to be in the picture. Promising me stuff, saying I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do that, and never delivering. But by God's mercy and grace, my mom married my daddy when I was 2, so I had that father figure there. But when I was 18, I sought my biological father out because I wanted to know why, and it was the lies just started, well, your mother this and your mother that. Stop. What you're not fitting to do is talk bad about that lady right there who was there.
Hold on. Make yourself a man having that same conversation with your father. You can see how, like, now you go in to defend your mother, and then he amplifies, because man to man.
Go ahead, man to man. What
is more confrontational? If you step to a man, you better be ready to hit and be hit. That's not the same way when we go into a confrontation with any woman. We're never thinking that. But if you step to a man, whether it be your father, your uncle, or any man on the street, you have to be ready for whatever happens.
Okay. Well, I didn't want to hear the lies, so I went to grandma. Kyle's my cousin, so I went to grandma, which was his mom, and I knew that she would not lie to me. I knew that my mom had her side. My biological father had his side, but grandma never lied. And my grandmother looked at me. She said, "Baby, I love you and I love him, but she said he's never been a good dad to you." And I thought that was a lot for a mother to say about her own son. And so she sat me down and she told me everything. And I took it back to him, and then he got upset. I said, "Are you disputing what your mother told me?" And then he goes out and he has another family. And I think his son was about 10, he got in contact with me and was like, "Oh, you have a brother, and I want you two to get to know each other." My response was, "Bama, I don't even know you." So it was just my thing came from not my mother never talked about him. Okay, that was the thing that he needed to understand. His name did not come up in that household unless he did something to upset me. So I didn't have her saying, "Oh, he was bad this, he was bad that." It was only when he promised this and promised that, and then I'm broken, that my daddy literally picks me up and holds me because I'm crying and I'm upset. He's the one who had to try to, heal those wounds, even though he didn't cause them. So my anger towards my biological father was what my biological father did not do for me. And that, and it manifested itself in my life in other ways. And I had to go through counseling to actually understand that it was deep rooted, with abandonment, rejection, all of that stuff actually plays a part. But I didn't want to be angry anymore. I didn't want to carry, that around. And before he passed away, I forgave him in my heart. I had to, because I had to do it for me, not for him.
Can I read something right quick?
Sure.
In my book, Black Spasms.
Mm-hmm.
Chapter 20, protect, don't project. So I start each chapter off with a quote. An African proverb says, if the young are not initiated into the village, they will burn it down just to feel its warmth.
Mm.
You know?
That's deep.
So what this young brother is doing is trying to get elicit some love. The misunderstanding comes in with the choice of words. I don't say we all, not everyone uses the same words that I use, because I'll cuss you out with the quickness. You know what I'm saying? I mean, I can have a conversation, just cuss every other word, but don't mean, any disrespect to you. So I'm gonna read something that says, stop projecting your unresolved Black spasms onto your children. The damage that affects Black children are at the hands of their parents is like no other pain they will ever suffer. It has been said the ones that are closest to you are the ones that hurt you the most. It does not say the ones that depend on you for their survival, you should hurt them the most. It is extremely challenging for Black children to combat the negative forces of this world if the ones that birth them wound them. Family is designed to be the protectors from the chaos of the world, not the chaos itself.
I want to read these comments real quick. So Miss Brown Eye says, yes, very deep rooted and much resentment being projected out by both parties. Just because the son hasn't been heard publicly and may not even speak on it until he's an adult doesn't mean that he doesn't hold things either. And then with the book, she's like, oh, snap, it's out. And I'm like, no, it's the first book. And then Jermaine says, hey, y'all, Ashanti proverb. And then I told her that the new book will have the first book and the second book combined. And then boom, drop Mike less.
There's a little bit more I want to read, then I'm done.
Okay.
It says, unfortunately for Black children, the chances of being nurtured by conscious parents in today's society are rare. Only a select few will have access to being raised in a conscious family, and we, as a Black race, must drastically elevate the standard. If not, our children are going to be used as servants like their ancestors. We have to go, and with me, I always want to take things back to a Black spasm, and how to eradicate that Black spasm. It's going to be challenging now, to be honest with you, with everything that's going on. When you see people like Kirk Franklin, who's probably maybe a year or two younger than me, reacting like this for whatever reasons, or his reaction being publicized the way it was. When you take that and you combine it with the younger generation now, who were raised by a generation of people who were going through what they were going through, it's going to be hard, in my opinion, for them or for these kids to get back to a level of consciousness that's going to elevate them. We're dealing with, council culture. We're dealing with everything. I got something today, talking about how your child is not in a position, at 8, 9, 10 years old to change their genitalia, So, but if you have parents who are giving them that option, without them having an opportunity to really see what's going on, these are the type of kids or offspring or generation that we're going to bring up. And the problem is the lack of consciousness with parents is hindering the growth and development of these kids. Elena?
I think, what Kurt showed or displayed is not so. I don't really have so much of an issue with the curse words. I think what he displayed was a lack of emotional intelligence, and
big words.
it's not
Big ass words.
like there was one thing that kind of
Your mother beep, emotional intelligence beep. You know what I'm saying?
so him saying I'm gonna beat you. It's like, okay, well, you could have said that without the cuss words, and we pretty know what that is, right? But when he called him a BAN,
a band. Mm-hmm.
yeah, like I'm not a man, but I can only imagine how that worked, how the construct of those things, those three things pulled together kind of hits. And how it hits coming from a father to a son. I don't know. I just heard that that's not something you want to call a man. Like those are words that
them fighting words.
Wound. Yeah, but they also words that wound. There's daggers behind them. So that's kind of I think that's where I struggle more so than, well, I'm gonna put my foot up behind. Well,
do you think that Kurt is struggling from post-traumatic black spasm disorder? No, that's in the book. That's in the book. No, I just didn't throw it out there. I'll let me read it. But a post was funny.
Nothing. Go ahead.
Read it.
Who snorted? Who just snorted?
Nikki snorted this time. That wasn't me.
All right. Post-traumatic black spasm disorder (PTBSD) is the effect the spasm leaves on the consciousness of black people long after the act has occurred. So, could it be his choice of words is a reaction to what he's gone through?
It could be. It definitely could be. Miss Brown Eyes says that will tear him down just like it tore down Kurt when he was coming up. That's what he's used to, vicious cycle. I know Kurt has gone through, a lot in his life, but I do commend Kurt for being, being in counseling, because it takes a lot to admit that you need help, because a lot of people think that they don't need help, that they can handle it. And when you finally make that decision, like, you know what, I can't do this on my own, man. Or you just get tired. You get tired of being heavy. You get tired of being angry. I know for me, I just got tired. I didn't want to be a statistic. I didn't want to be another angry black woman. I didn't want to be labeled that, but I was. I mean, I was called the B word so many times. I was like, make sure you put an MS in front of it. Get it right. That was my mindset, So I just hope that they both get the counseling and the mental healing that they both need, because it's happening in households across the world. You know what I'm saying? Angry parents, angry kids. It's just like Miss Brown Eye says, it's just a vicious cycle. It just keeps repeating until somebody decides, you know what, it's time to break them chains. Slavery.
Well, it's got to be done mentally. But my thing is this, and I've been asking this question since I started writing the second book. Are black people too broken to be healed?
I think it's got, like you said, it's got to be a mindset. If you want to stay broken, if you don't want to heal, then you might be too broken to be healed. I mean, some people would have said that with all of the trauma that I had gone through, that I was too broken to be healed. But I don't think that I was. I got tired of feeling broken, and so I took the necessary steps for me to try and make me whole again. Miss Brown Eye says, I see this kind of talk every day when my child logs into her class. What kind of talk, D? Like parents fussing at their kids or whatever?
She's talking about the Kirk Franklin talk. You know what I'm saying?
I mean, I think I don't think that anyone or anything is too broken to be healed. I think that healing is volitional in some respects. If you want to be healed, wilt thou be made whole? Is that what you want? Are you willing to do the work to get there? That's the question, I really think. The real question is, are we willing to do what it takes? Like I said, I didn't grow up with parents who cussed me out. And so that's not normal to me. And I think I remember going out into the world, and in one of my earlier relationships, dude cussed at me. And I was so taken aback because that wasn't the standard that was presented in my household. It wasn't the standard for communication. And so I think that where we can start is just start raising the standard. Like some things, they've become normal to us, but we've normalized some of our brokenness. And we could just start by raising the standard just a little bit by little bit. I think it's one thing to curse in the presence of your children. It's quite another to cuss, yell, holler at your children. And that's something that we can just start doing less of or not doing at all. I think it just starts baby steps. But I will say, for a person who wasn't raised around that type of communication, for me, I don't do that well. And if that's how you choose to communicate with me, I'm likely to bounce because that's not what I was, that's not what was modeled before me. So
Miss Brown says parents mindlessly talk to their kids because they have been raised that way and they feel it works. But the reality is they are continuing the abuse they went through. How kids are being talked to by their parents, not realizing they are not muted. Wow. And Jermaine says healing takes time, more time for some than others. I end up having to rectify their ways with my child because she doesn't know why they're being yelled at, name called like that. I would say one of the things that just angers me to no end. This is a while ago. I was at when Landover Mall was still open. I was in Landover Mall and there was a lady with her daughter. Her daughter couldn't have been more than like 2. And she cussed her out, called her a B and this, that, and the other. And I'm just like, she's a baby. She's a baby. You don't bring your B lazy so-and-so on and da. I'm sick of you and this, that, and the other. And I'm just like, how you got so much hate for this baby? That baby did not ask to be born. And she definitely didn't ask to have you as a mama. And it's just, my heart breaks when kids are raised in that type of toxic environment. It's just like, man, I wanted to slap the taste out of that woman's mouth. And it was like, I just wanted to take that little girl. She's crying. All I wanted to do was pick that little girl up and hug her to let her know that she was loved. Because I could only imagine what home life was like if you're talking to her like this out in public. I can't imagine what it would be like, if she drops something or doesn't pick up her toys fast enough or whatever, at home. So I'm like, at that young age, if you can talk to them like that, hitting is right around the corner. It's not far. It's not far from that. Jermaine says, important to note that a person has been away for some time. It may take that time for them to get it right. So many reasons why parents act that way. A lot. And I think it goes back to what Les was saying, if that's what they're used to, if that's how they were raised.
But it's not all just physical or verbal. What we see is abusive. I think oftentimes when we think of abuse, we think loud. But there are a lot of parents who are emotionally abusive and they never raise their voice. There are a lot of parents who can be extremely manipulative in the way that they handle and raise their children. And those types of behaviors are equally as toxic and problematic and create broken paradigms as the loud external behaviors. But I just don't want us to get lost in what's what appears to be broken externally. There's some other things, some silent killers as well in child-parent relationships.
That's a very good point. And to that point, yeah, that's a very good point. And to that point, as we talk more, and then saying that Kirk is a teenage parent, and then we're looking at his parental skills, even though his son, kind of outed him, he's a product of him. So your children represent you to a degree. Like, so when you brought the example to me, it's the furthest thing from my mind because I can't conceive of my child doing that to me. Like you couldn't conceive of your parents doing certain things to you. So I don't know how good of a parent he really was. Now hearing that he was a foster child, he had a childhood, he was a childhood parent, and now his son is acting out in these certain ways, and these are the ways that are being remedied. We don't know exactly if this hasn't been going on the whole time. Yeah. And it really, to me, looked now getting without even having heard what he said, I feel like I'm getting a bigger picture on this is Kurt. We just don't know that this is Kurt, and this may be Kurt with this particular child,
right?
But it seems like that's what this is, and I'm not sure if he is doing it on purpose, subconsciously, or it's just how he views this particular child. But his parental skills, have probably not been honed the way it had been with his other children that he's still married to their mother and has a little help in that regard. That means a lot as well.
Okay. All right. That was dope. You know what? Diana gonna be like, don't show that book unless she can get it.
I'm treating them like Apple treats everybody else. They put a product out verbally and concept a year in advance. Have people
it better not be no year before that book come out.
Listen, it's not. I got to read this to you. Jermaine said something earlier. He said, healing takes time. It does. It does. For some, it doesn't take that long. For others, it's, a long period of time. And then he said it's important to know that if a person has been like that, it may take them a long time. This is what I'll say. And I'm quoting the Bible, but I'm going to mess it up because I'm trying to get it in my head. I think when Jesus was talking to Peter, he said, "Do you love me?" He said, "Yes, I do, Lord. You know how much I love you." And I think he said, blah, 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 blah. Then he said, "Well, feed my sheep," right? I mean, you know more than I do, right? He said, "Feed my sheep."
Hold up real quick, Les. Kyle's got to run. He just wanted to say bye to everybody.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm going to bow out a little early this week. I'll definitely watch the broadcast.
Why are you leaving, Kyle?
Don't start.
I'm sorry. I'm never leaving you. I'm in your heart, though.
You on vacation in Florida. Be honest.
I already knew that.
All right, enjoy the beach, cuz.
Black out there in the sun. Chapter 22, consciousness unfolding, right? So how do you look at your kids and cuss them out, right? When Jesus told Peter, feed my sheep, right? So if you look at parents and say, if you're following me, love your kids, So the development of self-awareness, self-improvement, and self-empowerment is important to me. It is paramount that Black people develop a good concept that will transport them from the old enslaved consciousness into a new free consciousness. This process will only take place when they realize their consciousness does not serve their best interest, but the interest of others. When they arrive at the realization and they are ready to make changes, their worlds will expand, right? So when Gil Scott-Heron said the revolution will not be televised, it will be live, right? And that the first change is the change that you make in your mind. When we get to a point that is not serving our best interest or the best interest of our children or our culture to communicate to one another using these words, then we will see us making a step in the right direction. Until then we're going to continue to serve another interest that does not benefit us at all. And it could be music, our culture, the way we treat women, the way we treat men, the way we treat each other, and the way we are raising our kids. Because to take off a kid cartoon and then replace it with WAP is saying that, you talking about counsel culture. Look at it for what it is. You're counseling the culture, especially Black kids. Because in my opinion, Black kids, our identities are so spread abroad and we're all over the place. So if we're going to change it, our measure of changing is by how you first go about changing that process in your mind in terms of how you're going to effectively deal with everybody around you, including yourself.
Deep. You muted.
No.
Oops. I did not watch the Grammys, but I heard that one of the focal pieces was a performance of WAP, right? Can somebody confirm that? Is that?
I didn't watch it.
I don't watch that garbage.
Me neither.
Okay. But I think that you're right. Our culture is literally what we had left or had of a culture is literally being canceled. I feel like our culture was already scrambled to begin with, but it is devolving to a very unsafe and unstable place. And culture is a really important component for raising a race of children. I don't know. It's a tough conversation, Another point you brought up, how does a parent position their mouth to basically cuss out a child? I guess, if that's what you're used to. I hear a lot of people saying, well, it worked for me and I'm okay,
But are you really okay?
Are you okay?
Did it work for you?
Right. When do we start to look at some of the things that we do critically and say, maybe this isn't the best way to carry it? I don't know.
When Amos Wilson was talking about the structure of the Black family, and when we begin to see the demise of the Black family, if you were to go back, if you were to bring those people who had died 40 years ago and have a conversation or plant them right here where we are now, they could not probably understand what was going on. And what we could not understand is what they were dealing with in terms of how to keep that Black family together. So look at how much has transpired from then until now. The different things that were done were tolerated. I remember my grandmother was 50 years older than me? Damn near 60 years, seems like 60 years older than me. Now you got grandmothers and shit who look, like they the mother of their grandchild and act just like them.
I got beaten. I came out all right, so I beat my kids because I believe it's effective. Well, I believe whipping that tail is effective too. I'll tell you one thing.
He's just saying that. Jermaine doesn't believe that. Because going back to our old past shows, he's always quoting Hugh Masekela. We are our oppressor's worst imitators, right?
Or imitators.
I see what you're saying. I see what you're saying. He's just okay. I got you.
And guess what? Sorry, Nikki. But and that's that thing. You know what I'm saying? I got beat. Look at how I turned out. My thing is, what would have happened if you didn't get beat? Think about how you would have really turned out. I'm sorry.
A mess. That's okay. I mean, the Bible says, "Spare the rod, spoil the child."
Yeah,
that's not what it means. That's not what it means.
What do you mean? What do you mean? Break it down for me, Lena. Break it down.
I'll let Lena have this one. That's not what it means, though.
That's definitely not what it means. Of course, the Bible is full of allegory and images and things that people of that time will understand. And so when it talks about sparing the rod, it's an allusion to the shepherd. Psalm 23. The Lord is my shepherd. What do shepherds do with rods? You don't see shepherds beating sheep with rods. They don't. They don't. Shepherds.
Get in line, okay?
That's not how that happens. They use rods to lead, to instruct, and to guide sheep, not to beat them. So it really is saying, if you are not guiding and teaching and developing your children, that's the issue. It is not a call to beat children. And it's certainly not what was intended in the passage. That's not what shepherds do with sheep.
I was today years old when I got schooled on that. I did not know. So thank you for educating me. But my thing was my parents, my dad, he spanked me when I deserved it. I mean, I gotten in trouble in school and they used to send home deficiency notices. Well, I learned how to forge my mother's signature at a very young age. I was bad. So I went through an entire year of forging her signature. And I was like, cool, I got away with it. Well, little did I know, I had the same teacher the next year, got in trouble again, and he decided to call the house. And he said, well, last year we had these issues and I got all these deficiency notices. My mother said, excuse me? So she went and met with the teacher. Boy, let me tell you what. After that, I straightened up. It was like, I didn't like getting spanked, beat, whatever you want to call it. I did not like it. I didn't have a lot of them. And honestly, with my daughter, I didn't really have to spank her a lot. I think I can count on one hand the amount of times that I spanked her. So
I have a question, and have been guilty of this in the past. Why do we have to move to a level of violence in order to get our point across? Is that not a form of control that we're trying to force? If you tell your child to take the trash out, they don't take it out. Do you pop the butt? You know what I'm saying? And knowing now that the rod of correction has nothing to do with a stick, but maybe the way in which you move them and guide them through, wouldn't that take out that element of pop that ass, or somebody say pop that trunk?
It depends. I think it depends on the kid though, because with my daughter, timeout worked for her. But I've seen other kids, timeout don't work for them. Sometimes popping them is like the last thing a parent may want to do. But if you find that your child reacts to that, because whenever I spank my daughter, I would talk to her afterwards and I would tell her it's not something that I wanted to do. But if I consistently ask you to do something, you don't do it. You want to get mouthy and do this, that, and the other. At some point, talking just doesn't work.
I don't know. My mother, I really love that lady. I was not spanked a ton. Save my smack in the face when I was like 15, and the one beating I got when I almost died, which my mother can acknowledge. She beat me that time out of fear.
I get that.
I didn't get a lot of spankings. My mother really, she talked to me. Sometimes I wish she'd be quiet. But that was the approach that she took with me, because I really think what she wanted me to do was to understand. And I think one of the questions that I would ask of parents who do use corporal punishment, like, do you ever use corporal punishment when you're angry? And if you're angry when you're punishing your children, is what you're doing really corrective, or is it an extension of your feelings in this moment?
That's a good question. My mother-in-law helped me with that. She told me to never beat my daughter when I was angry. So whenever I got angry, I literally had to calm down first. And I think a lot of times that's why she didn't get beat, because when I did calm down, my thoughts were a little bit more clear. So I would sit her down and ask her, why did you do that? And if she could give me a logical answer as to why she would do it, I would be like, okay, well, this is why you should not do that. But for me, my grandmother never beat me, but whenever she was disappointed in me, it felt like my world was coming to an end. You know, because I had such high respect and love for that woman. Like with the deficiency thing, she sat me on the bed and she looked at me and she said, I'm very disappointed in you. I broke down like she had just whooped my tail, you know, and it was just like she was the one person in my life who I did not ever want to disappoint. Ever.
Look at the culture that she created, right? Could you imagine if that culture was created in everyone's family, that there was an accountability factor that was in place, that we didn't want to disappoint, we didn't want to hurt, we didn't want to, be defiant, and that when we made a mistake, folks would actually just look at us and talk to us and get an understanding of why we did what we did, and then explain to us, because not wanting to hurt someone, that's a real cool thing, and not wanting to be hurt by someone is cool as well. Yes, Elena.
The other thing that I don't think that I'm not a parent, so I don't know, but what I feel is not talked about enough is like what is really going on with children. Sometimes aren't children just being children? Like, are they not reacting based on their physiological and mental makeup? Isn't there a capacity? Isn't that why they're a child? And then I don't understand parents who are like, my child is hyper, but you give them tons of sugar. Like, where's the wisdom? Where's the wisdom in that? It's like you're setting your own child up to fail you. I think sometimes we don't take enough time to really understand children, understand how they work, how they think. By nature, they're impulsive. Like, they just are. And that's why you have to guide them. But like, do you want to hurt them for being like what they actually in fact are?
I think it depends on what they do. Like my daughter, she used to drive me crazy with this. She had this thing where she would cut up pieces of paper really tiny and just like make confetti. It would be everywhere in her room. And I was like, I got so angry. And I'm like, what are you doing? I'm decorating. I didn't beat her for it, but I was like, okay, let's look at this. She likes to decorate. So I found a constructive way for her to do it. Okay, well, you know what? You want to decorate? That's fine. How about we put all your little pieces in this bucket right here? And then from there, you can put it on like a piece of paper and make mommy something, this, that, and the other. So again, I had to calm down and then figure out a way to make what she was doing into something constructive. Because that's just what kids do. Like you said, that's what they do. They do that kind of stuff.
Keep in mind, how sophisticated were our parents, in terms of development. Nowadays, if you have to take your kids to see a psychologist. There have been some pretty conscious parents out there who weren't psychologists, but they knew they were more in tune with themselves. They were more in tune with their children. I came home one time and Leslie was in the office and she didn't mess it up, but me, irritated about some other things. And, she had used some of my stuff and didn't put it up. And I scolded her for it. But I realized later on, it wasn't that she was just trying to take advantage, it's that she was missing me. And that was her way of being connected to me by being in the midst of my stuff. Like you come home and your daughter's wearing your high heel shoes, or, if you have to go on a business trip and she's, she may sleep with your picture beside her. So, and here's the problem. We shouldn't have to be a psychologist now to deal with our kids. But because we're so broken, as people, the first thing that we want to do, and listen, I taught in DC public schools. I know how it is for a parent to come up there and say, I'll fuck you up and I'll whoop your motherfucking ass in front of me. You know what I'm saying? I mean, I've been there. I've been there. I've seen parents haul their kids off to the bathroom and whoop that ass. You know what I'm saying? Me being younger at the time, I enjoyed it. You know what I'm saying? I'm like, I started lying on the kid. Well, he said this to me. He said my mom wasn't shit. You know what I'm saying? I was making up all types of shit just so they can get a bigger ass whooping. And then when they came out, I laughed at them. Yeah, that's why your mama came in and whooped your ass. You know what I'm saying? You never deny it. You know what I'm saying? But we shouldn't have to be psychologists, but we have to be or take them to see a psychologist. And here's a deeper problem. Because we don't respect one another, we take our black children to see white psychologists, and they don't understand us. And now they're telling us things like, well, he needs to be in timeout. Timeout don't work for everybody. Did you guys see the Dave Chappelle show where they was doing spouse trading, swapping?
The show or the Dave Chappelle show where they did that?
The Dave Chappelle show, where the black husband goes over to the white family, so he's with the white woman, and the white husband goes over to the black family, and he's with the black woman. And the dynamics, because Dave Chappelle, he plays some cat named Washington with the cigarette hanging out his mouth in the bush. This young white guy who thinks he's hard, right? And so Dave Chappelle walks past his room, and the white boys in there talking about G-Unit. And so he puts them in the car and takes them to the hood. Around all these black kids, he said, get out. So the white father goes over to the black boy's house, parents' house, and he puts little Tyrone or whatever his name, he puts him on timeout. He said, you're going to time out, mister. The little boy goes in, he said, time out. I like time out. He got a magazine and some Vaseline. He masturbated. You know what I'm saying? So, the whole different dynamics, certain shit don't work for us. You said it's organic, right? No,
that was funny. I have to look at that. I have to look that up.
But, or he could have responded like, time out. Man, please. I wish my mother would have given us time out, because she had us working 24/7. There was no sitting down. So you bring somebody in and say, yo, put them kids on timeout. I think I would have fucked up on purpose just to go to time.
So how do you guys feel about military punishment, where you're not putting your hands on the kids, but if they do something, you have to go to the corner and you have to
Isn't the military the biggest gang out here?
Well, it's like, what was it? It was called the chair. So you had to you stand there, almost like you're sitting in a chair, and you had to have your arms out. And it was just if your arms fell past a certain point, then you got 1 or 2 more minutes more or whatever. And it was just.
Does that just teach self-inflicted punishment and pain? I don't get that at all. But can we go back to something that Les did say that actually rings true for me? This idea that you need to know and understand your children. Each child you would deal with differently. I feel grateful to have had the mother that I had, given the type of child that I was. I was extremely daring. I was precocious. Get into anything, not because I was bad, but I was a little explorer. I just wanted to know, and I think, I know if my grandmother had been my mother, I would have turned out to be a very different person. But because my mother understood who I was, I feel like her parenting was in alignment with who I am. My mother gave me a lot of latitude to do a lot of things, to be real honest with you. I never had a curfew, and I don't know. I felt like God gave me the right mother, but more than that, I think that it's just important for parents to know their kids, because when you know your kids, I think knowing your kids leads to understanding how to guide and correct them. Like what one child can take, another can't, you know? You don't want to discipline your child to the point that you break their spirit. I mean, but
Right.
you have to know, you have to be in tune with your child to know that I just pushed that too hard. You know, do I need to bring this back? Do they not respond well to, do they respond better to criticism? Like all of those things. You just got to really know your kids, and each, you know, several children born of the same parent may require different parenting skills because they're just different.
Yeah, my daughter didn't respond well to criticism, so I had to figure out a way. Analogies work better for her. So it was, I was like, I would compare what she did to something else so that when she got that correlation, she understood. She was like, oh, okay. But if I criticized her, she felt like I didn't believe in her and this, that, and the other. So I realized that wasn't the way to go. And I tell her all the time, I know you better than you know yourself. I spent a lot of time watching her, watching how she interacts with people, watching how she talks and things of that nature. And her dad used to be like, I said, don't just, sometimes I'll be like, let her figure it out on her own, because she learned like a man. You know how they say some men you have to let them fall on their face so they know that's my kid. And it was just like, I could tell her a million times, don't touch the stove, don't touch the stove. One day I let her touch the stove. She's like, that was hot. Now you understand why mommy told you not to touch the stove. She didn't touch the stove no more. And same thing with biting. She used to bite all the time. And my ex-husband was like, how come she bites everybody but you? Because I bit her back. He was like, what? I said, I didn't bite her to the point that she drew blood, that I drew blood. Because when she would bite, you would be bleeding. But I bit her hard enough for she to know that, see, it doesn't feel good, does it? She's like, no. I said, well, that's what it feels like when you do that to other people. So she stopped biting me, but she would bite everybody else. And I'm like, do you want mommy to bite you again? No. Then you have to stop biting other people because it hurts.
Do you think?
And she was like,
Do you think that biting her back was the only solution? Do you think she would have gravitated to not biting back had you not done that?
nah, because she was biting everybody, biting kids at school, biting my parents. It was just like, she thought it was funny.
So you had to give her 100% of herself.
Yeah.
In order for her to understand the ramifications of her biting people.
Exactly. And she learned it. I didn't have to beat her. I didn't have to yell at her. She bit me one day and I was like, I'm gonna teach this little sucker a lesson. So I was like, she was doing something and I bit like right here on her arm. And she was like, ow, mommy. And I was like, that's what it feels like, but worse when you bite people. It hurts. So you need to stop. So it was just, I gave her a little bit of what she was giving to other people so that she could understand what it felt like.
Parents aren't always right. I think parents have to be willing to admit when they're wrong or when they made a wrong call. Because the same behaviors from two different children can be very different. I think growing up with an autistic sister who lacked the ability to communicate some things meant that she would often act out. And so, it was incumbent upon us to figure out, like, what is she really trying to communicate right now? And I think children do that as well. Sometimes they could be acting out, like Les said, his daughter missed him, and picking up on those nuances and cues too.
So,
one struggle that I see a lot is with different parenting styles. Okay, that can be a very it can be very strenuous on the child. You know, one parent is saying one thing and the other parent is saying the other, you know, and the child is caught in the middle,
Mhm.
you know, and you have then because that creates so much damage in the child because the parents are just screwed up, you know, and not willing or wanting to yield when yielding is necessary sometimes, and sometimes you better not do it, you know, because if you yield at the wrong time, you're gonna get got, you know, and then the kid is really gonna be in a position where, you know, they're gonna be butt out, you know. As long as, you know, and I keep saying it, and even though I say it jokingly, you know, when I say it goes back to slavery, right? Maybe it does, maybe it doesn't. I just know that this system that we're in now is not working for us. You know? And when you have Asians that come over to this country and do well, when you have Hispanics that come over to this country and do well, and any other nationality and do well, something is going on with our culture, you know, with our development. I think our development has been arrested, you know, to the point that, or what is it, failure to launch.
Mm.
What are we going to do? Because, like I said, you walk around, and when you're my age and you have a 9-year-old child, and you know you're projecting, you know you're looking, you know what's it going to be like 10 years from now, 15 years from now, you know. So you have a child that's in class with much younger parents than myself. So she's learning old school values in a new school world, you know. What is her world going to look like? Or what happens when you have parents who are both black but have different cultural dynamics? You know, how do you raise that? And this is what I was saying about projecting and projection. You know,
Ain't it your cousin?
who?
Judith. No? Okay, sorry.
Let me read the comment first. There's some garbage. There's some garbage. I'm a denier.
Oh,
This is timeout. We don't get timeout. Timeout is from my grandmother taking a break from beating us and come back with a different kind of weapon to use on us. Okay, I use a belt. I use a belt now stick.
Yeah, that's my people's. Yeah.
That's what I thought. That's what I thought. So, Jermaine says, when we use a physical approach to teach children not to do something, it impacts their problem solving skills, along with teaching them how to resolve issues with aggression.
Yeah.
so have y'all seen? There's a cute little video going around of like a 6-year-old boy calming his brother who's about to go into a tantrum. And this 6-year-old boy basically leads a 2-year-old boy in breathing techniques. And he's just like, chill. And you see this little baby who's like ready to go, like really like he you know, he chills out. I think you raised a great question. That video made me think of other videos like the karate videos where a kid doesn't get it and everybody in the circle kind of cheers them on. And I think there's a similar video uh, based in Africa where like if a child fails, you basically put that child in the middle of the community and everybody supports and encourages them. You know, I think it begs to question, like, what does the person need at this moment? You know, sometimes when a child has failed, they don't need to be beaten, you know, any further. Can I read something right quick though?
Sure.
Is it from this?
It's not from that. This is from a book called Project Sankofa, Rites of Passage Program, Philosophy, Theory, and Overview. So what I'm sharing is just a little bit of the overview. But it says demanding that a system which is designed to be detrimental to our children successfully educate or socialize our children is an effort in futility. The system is supposed to make failures of our children. You may ask why this is so. You may even attempt to refute the argument detailed herein. However, if you look realistically at the statistics and look carefully around you, these very strong statements cannot be summarily dismissed. We must come to the realization that the American systems of education, economics, and socialization were never designed to benefit African people. Yet we have deluded ourselves into believing that it should work for us. Most people immigrating to this country have been either escaping from oppressive systems in their home countries or have been looking for better lives than they could find in their home countries. Most of these immigrants have believed that in America they would have religious, economic, political, and social freedom. The literature, education, history, constitution, and propaganda of America speaks to this very issue. However, in viewing religious, economical, political, social, and propaganda data, there's no mention of such rationales for immigration for most people of African descent. Well, basically, he goes on to say, as Les would say, I'll say it all started from slavery. And I won't read it all, but it's really it's basically just talking about this culture and like how can we expect our children to flourish in systems that were designed for their failure. And I think that the same thought process can be taken when thinking about how do we discipline, how do we develop young African children. It's not with the European model. You know, I think that we have to kind of go back and rethink the way that we're doing things completely. Amos Wilson said this. You mentioned him earlier. He said, if you're not yet free, you don't know the truth. And so there's some truths that we really need to seek out that we're not understanding as of yet.
Miss Brown Eye says yes. My 6-year-old is able to help her 7-month-old to chill. So yeah, she got 2 little ones, and that's so Naomi. She's such a big helper. She's a sweetheart. So I can actually see Naomi like, it's okay, it's okay. I can actually see her doing that to her little sister. It's a beautiful thing.
Elena,
It's a beautiful thing.
when you said that, if you mess up, someone messes up, they bring them into the center, and all of the village embraces this one person, right? As my mentor always tells me, when we're in a house, you don't lose anything. It's when you go out into the world don't care anything about you. That's when you lose things. And if we come to the conclusion or understanding that inside of this house, you don't lose anything. This is for enhancement, empowerment, growth, and nurturing, and developing and disciplining. And discipline is something that's done for you, not to you.
Mm-hmm.
Understanding where it comes from. And if we're growing one another and growing the culture within, then when they step outside, they can take on what the world is about to give them. But if we do not get to a position where we start to have a revolution in our minds, then we're not going to be any better. Like Amos Wilson said, we are no better off than our ancestors were. We think that because we have degrees and cars and houses and opportunities and Zoom calls and jobs, we are our same ancestors, but in a more modern state than they were. We're going through the same things that they're going through, but theirs appear to be more archaic, right? What happens 300 years from now when they're looking back on us? So we may be considered as your Nat Turners, your Amos Wilsons, your Malcolms, your Martins. And what about the ones who would say, man, I would have never done that. When they talking about COVID, I would have walked out there with no mask on. No, you would have done that. The same way when we look at our ancestors and we say, ain't no way in the world, if I'm going to be 6'8", 285 pounds, I'm going to let a little white boy who's 12 years old tell me what to do. Yes, you are.
If you want to live, you will.
That's called? It's called power. That's called power, which is something that we do not have. We don't have power.
Yep, and I'm gonna use that as a segue to the other thing that I want to talk about, which is the shootings that happened in Atlanta yesterday, and I was like, I told Les earlier, I don't want to sound, insensitive, but this isn't new. You know, Black folks have been picked off, abused, killed, for a lot less, you know, and it's like, it just seems like whenever it happens to another race, then it becomes a priority. But we've been screaming and sounding alarm for centuries that this isn't right. Now all of a sudden it's a big push, you know, and I don't agree with, you know, what's happening with the Asians. I think it's horrible, but it's been happening to us, you know, for such a long time. And I don't know, I told Les I didn't want to sound insensitive because I'm not. But I don't know. It's just.
So Nikki, I don't watch the news. You got to catch me up. What happened in Atlanta?
So a white guy went into 3 different massage parlors and killed 8 people.
Why?
6 of them were Asian women. So at first they thought it was racially motivated, but after talking to the suspect, they said they're saying that it was he has a sexual addiction, and he looked at those places as temptation. And he also had plans to come to, I think, Florida and like kill some people in the porn industry or whatever. And because of all the hate crimes that's being done against Asians, they thought that you know was what the motivating factor was. And I don't know. It's just like we still ain't got justice for Breonna Taylor, George Floyd. Well, that's still, you know, pending. But Ahmaud Arbery, you know what I mean? It's like, you know, we get killed for. We were killed just coming home from school, and if you know, some white boys decided they wanted to lynch somebody, and that's what they did. You know what I mean? And it's just it's I'm not saying that it's right. It's not right. It's horrible that, you know, somebody is targeted because of what they look like. It's disgusting. But it's terrorism. Basically, is what it is. We've been the victim of racism for a very, very, very long time. So I don't know.
As we were talking earlier, well, you said that it was a white guy who killed 8 Asian.
Yes.
All Asians.
I think 6 of the women, six of the 8 were Asian women. I don't know what the other 2 were.
And based on the sexual addiction that he had.
That's what they're saying now.
And so I understand what you're saying. You know, we're not trying to be insensitive or cold.
Not at all. Not at all.
And I think the Black community will probably be very upset, you know, at the loss of life from anybody. You know, that's who we are. The term "the chickens are coming home to roost," you know, which was not a term that was created by Malcolm X. You know, he just repeated that. You know, when what you mean? Well, you got to go back to the first one. It's clear that our.
I'm sorry, which one?
Yeah, I think that one. We discipline how we were disciplined. We learned to accept, adopt, and justify its use. We do that, and also see no value in finding a better way to do so, which speaks back to the troglodyte mentality that most of us have. We have a prehistoric way of thinking. The collateral damage from this is a person getting shot over arguing, over stepping on someone's shoe, a woman getting a black eye from a disagreement over dinner from her mate, and many more. Don't move, but go back to just what just happened over this $1,400 stimulus check.
Oh yes, that was horrible. That was absolutely, man. I cried when I read that story. My heart just broke.
Right. So my question was, is it the love of money, for the root. What is it for? Is the love of money, which is the root of all evil, or is it poverty?
Poverty. I mean, I think in this situation,
Yeah.
this is clearly an issue of poverty.
And control.
Most people are struggling just to maintain, and poverty is a whole mindset and spirit of its own. So I think that's what was at work with that situation. I don't think it's just the love of money.
I love of money.
Not over $1,400.
I mean,
we want to talk about million and $billion industries.
Right.
Now, I think that's the love of money. But
I just heard that Jeff Bezos made during this coronavirus situation $360 billion.
Mm-hmm.
$360 billion he made. I think I was listening to WPFW this morning with Amy Goodman. But I'm looking at what's going on in Flint, Michigan, right? I'm looking at this vaccine that they came up with, in record time. Is he not allowed to donate some of his money to Flint? If he wanted to. Jermaine said, it's clear that our plight is to be ignored. He's absolutely right. I got to give him his props on that, because no one is paying attention to what is happening to Black people. What happens when Asians are the new niggas and Koreans are the new niggas? Mm-hmm. White people are the new niggas. Even Richard Pryor did in his skit years ago, where the white couple went over there and they got a Vietnamese baby. You know what I'm saying? And they was taking them out for training, and they was teaching them, nigga, 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 nigga. Well, if you get your ass kicked, you said it right. You know what I'm saying? What happened? I mean, this is what he was talking years ago. So what happens when Black people are no longer the niggas, and that the real and true definition of the word nigga is being lived out? That a nigga is not a Black person, but an ignorant person, one who ignores the facts, right? So what happens when, a white kid gets killed, and why did he die? Well, someone said he was a nigger, but he's white. What does that have to do with it?
They sending us all to Mars anyway. I was doing my
Mars, bitches, Mars.
I was doing my research, and I love cars. Tesla's supposed to be my next car, and I can attest to the fact that the Tesla stock has done well by me in this pandemic. But when I was researching Elon Musk, different, like all of the companies that he started, there's a certain company called SpaceX, and they are working on Mars travel. Like, they're really talking about colonizing Mars. You can't buy their stock yet. It's not publicly traded.
Would you buy it?
I sure would. Mm-hmm.
Elon's a different man.
Yeah,
he does a lot of different things.
I would play the game for my purposes. I would. We could have a conversation about this. There was a time where I didn't, and I don't know if I disagree with this, if I've changed my mind about it. I just don't think that the stock market is fair.
It's not.
I disagree with it wholeheartedly. I don't know that I've changed that perspective, but I do. I use it for my personal gain.
I having worked in that industry, having worked directly with Wall Street, I can say that it's not fair.
So people or poor people? To Black people, poor people.
Both.
You have to really know how to play the game in order to get ahead, and knowing how to play the game is pretty much all of the battle. I mean, watching how they work, and I get how a lot of it is generational wealth. I mean, because I saw it firsthand, and like I said, on one of these before, I tried to educate people on it. Blacks, they didn't want to listen to me. So,
I didn't bring it up to talk about the stock part, but
Right.
it's the Mars part. Like, these people have plans for us, and I think these plans are crazier than we think. Because what I want to know is why are you working to colonize Mars? Who's going there? Who's like you really are trying to build mass transportation to Mars. Who you sending there? Who's going? Do y'all know?
Gil Scott,
Trying to
They
figure
gonna round up all the niggas and put them over to Mars.
who's going to Mars.
Gil Scott Heron said in his album, and I'll find the album, but one of the lines was, "Space is the place, but you stayed on the ground."
You ready? You ready?
But let's read his first, and then we'll read mine, right?
Okay.
Con after con after con, right? It's all about money.
Money.
Damn
And the
thing.
damn thing funny.
Gotta
You
have
gotta have a con in this land to make a honey.
and it's a con, you know, and it's a con. I think it's going to be imperative for us as Black people, as much as those who will listen, to get our shit together. You know what I'm saying? I mean, across the board, how we relate to each other, you know, how we relate with each other, you know, how we raise our kids, how we educate our kids. We need to start looking at things from a different perspective. And it's very imperative that we get the backstory. You know, we got to get the backstory, because if we're losing our lives over $1,400, right? $1,400. What is $1,400 to a billionaire? You know, look how many lives that you took away who could have got you $1,400 had you invested in them the correct way.
4 lives gone.
Over $1,400 damn dollars.
And the thing was, you know, the mother of his child, she finally was like, "Fine, I'll give you 450." He was like, "That's not enough." And you know, I keep in my head, I keep seeing, you know, how he was when they arrested him. It was almost like he was proud. You know, the way he was walking out, you know.
Ego. You got ego, because he know what's going to happen to him. It ain't going to be pretty.
You kill. But the fact that the baby, that the little 7-year-old, my heart just broke. I literally cried when I read that. It was just, and I was just like, how broken is he to do something like that?
Good point.
You know?
And Elena, she said, how broken is he? Can he be healed?
I mean, I don't know if the question for him is, can he be healed? I think the question is, can he be restored? Can he be healed? Yeah, I think he can be healed. Restoring him after taking a life like that, that's
4
hard.
lives. 4.
That's harder. So you heal, but what where does that leave you? You know, like
that family is broken right now. They lost their mom, the mother of the family, not the mother of the baby, but the mother, the girl's brother, her cousin, and then the baby.
I don't know what restorative justice looks like in a scenario like that. I really don't.
It's just that right there, and I just was like, it hurt me to my heart. It really did. You know, the whole situation was sad, where he felt like, I mean, he just kept harassing her. He wanted half of the $1,400 and half of her tax money. I mean, this woman, you know, she worked hard. You know, she had a beauty shop or whatever. And she told him, she's like, you don't do anything to deserve it. I'm the one raising, you know, our child or whatever. And then, you know, he comes in and expects that she's just supposed to just hand over this money willy-nilly because he said so. You know, and her brother came to her defense. You know, he comes into the house, taking her purse, looking at her wallet. There's no money. He's screaming at them, "Give me the money." And the brother's like, "It's not here," you know? And so in defense of his sister, he pushes him. And that's when he pulled out the gun and he shot her brother several times.
Question: do you guys think this would have happened, this specific story, if it wasn't set in the backdrop of the current pandemic? Do you think the pandemic is kind of playing a part, or?
Yeah, absolutely. People have lost their livelihood. Some people, have possibly lost, their homes and everything else. And it was already a bad system, and it just got worse. And I mean, to some people, it's been a blessing, and to others, it's been a curse. If you were already struggling, and then you pretty much lose everything, you just, at some point, I guess some people feel like they've got nothing left to lose.
Yeah.
So why not?
That's dangerous.
Can you throw Jermaine's comment? That thing really resonates with me.
This one?
Mm-hmm.
Our death and despair is a big and lucrative business. Ooh. That's why it stays on circulation in movies, shows, media, etc.
Music.
Depending on what he had prior or during the pandemic, it could have been due to that. I agree. I mean, and I hate to bring this up, but I mean, I know drug dealers are probably suffering too. Who's buying right now? Anybody got no money? So if that was your income and things of that nature,
I think dealers are doing all right now. I mean, based on what I see and hear, maybe not all drug dealers, but sale of alcohol is up, opiate use is up. The stress of this pandemic is pushing people to self-medicate. So I think the drug dealers are all right, to be honest with you. Maybe this is even, business might even be better for some of them right now, unfortunately.
This whole thing is just, it's sad. It's
domestic
really sad.
violence is really on the, I can't imagine what it would be like to be in a domestic situation and now you sheltering in place with the person who's abusing you. This thing is crazy.
Right. And that's another, because you have nowhere to escape to. Everything is closed and stuff. And it's just like today, I went somewhere and I paid $10 for parking, but ended up being in the wrong garage. And so I couldn't use the $10 that I paid, ended up having to pay $30 more to get out of the garage. So I ended up paying $40 for parking. And I started to get upset, and I was like, nope. I said, because it's not like I don't have the money. I've got my health. I've got a car. Like, I started looking at the positive things that I had so that I wouldn't complain, and I mean, I'm blessed to be able to say all those things. To somebody else, that may have broken somebody. That might have been like the last month, the last little bit of money, that they had. And it was just, I made a decision to not complain, to not be upset over that.
That's what it was. I mean, it's a choice. You know what I'm saying? It's a choice. Have we been positioned or conditioned to become weak?
Yes.
So therefore, I mean, think about, parents who've gone out and worked 3 jobs and walked and got a little bit of sleep and, still did it day after day after day and still dealt with the hardships. I will say, when the Bible says that each generation becomes weaker and wiser, look at it. I mean, from an emotional perspective, very weak, very weak. I mean, we have all this intelligence in terms of building things, and kids are graduating from high school at 8, you know what I'm saying, and college at 7, you know what I'm saying? They were born backwards and shit, you know what I'm saying? I mean, like Elena said earlier, the emotional intelligence isn't there. The EQ is not there. The IQ isn't there. We don't know how to relate to each other in relationships. We don't know how to communicate. And even when doing the whole name thing and being able to explain to a person what they have and what that they don't have, it still goes a little bit deeper than that. Because if you don't have the proper tools in your toolbox, you need to go to Lowe's or Home Depot. You know what I'm saying? Seriously, get a bigger toolbox. Get some tools. Hell, borrow those tools if you need to. Because I heard this saying that if the only toolbox that you have is a hammer, then you have a tendency to treat everyone like nails. And this is the problem. This is what we're doing. So to see this cat, yeah, Benjamin Button babies,
right?
Or Richard Pryor would call them big waterhead babies.
Mm-hmm. But I often sit back sometimes and just look at this generation, and I'm just like, we're gonna be in trouble if we got them to lead us later on in life.
I hate to throw it all on this generation because, can we be honest? Many of the failure, even in this Kirk Franklin story, many of the failures of this generation are the failures of their parents.
I can't agree with that.
Hold on, repeat that, Elaine. I'm sorry, Nikki.
Many of the failings of this generation are the failings of their parents.
I can agree to that to some.
I'm not letting them off of the hook for personal responsibility, but each generation has dropped some balls, and in recent generations, we've dropped a whole lot of balls.
So what do you do when you feel like you've raised your child right, giving them, like, let's say, giving them all the tools, and they just throw the toolbox out and they figure they're gonna do it their own way, and it's just one disastrous failure after another?
Like I said earlier, I think parents have to be willing to take a critical look at themselves. I think one of the most difficult things for a parent is to admit in the parent-child dynamic when they're wrong,
mm-hmm.
or when they've done something wrong, when they've made
and apologize. I think that's
or when the decision that they've made wasn't the best one. I guess that's that ego. But do I feel like my mom did a great job raising me? I sure did. I sure do. She did. Did she do everything right? Nah, she didn't, and it's not, some of it's not even about what she didn't do right. It's about the things that maybe she could have done that she didn't do, or the things that she didn't know to do. Can we take responsibility and ownership for that maybe there's some things that, are failing our children is not in what we did teach them. It's all the stuff that we were ignorant to, that we didn't have the capacity to even teach them. These kids, they need more to survive in the world than we did. They do. They really do. And, yes, there is when you look at what's portrayed in the media, things look really bleak. But I do know some kids, some young people who are really on the ball, and they're not trying to do it. They're doing it, I think those are just the young people that you don't see so much, but there are conscious young people in the community. There are young people who are doing amazing things, from buying whole tracts of land to be populated by Black persons only, to young people moving from working in corporations to becoming entrepreneurs and creating communities for business owners of color. I don't know, maybe I just see what other people don't. I'm not going to trust everything that I see on the news. I see young people on the move, so I'm not going to damn them to hell. I'm not, because I see that there's some who are taking the knowledge and they're moving on it.
But are they unicorns?
I don't think so. I think it's your perspective. I don't think they're unicorns. I think that there are more out there than maybe we know. But I see whole communities of young people doing amazing things.
I need to hang out with you more. I'm serious because I'm not talking about the news. I'm talking about what I see with my own eyes. Just when I go to the stores or whatever, and just seeing how they move and how they talk. And I wanted to ask this question: do you guys think that social media has been a part of the culture that has? Because I know these kids have a lot more than we did.
They have access, more access.
Yeah. Do you think that that's part of it?
I think everything plays a part. I mean, Dr. Claude Anderson said years ago that the internet would not benefit Black people. It will move us faster. It will move us to a destination faster with the same problems. What would you rather take there? A seller from here to New York going super fast, or that regular old Amtrak, not even in the quiet car, but everybody making noise, going 5 miles an hour, exaggerating. We're getting to destinations faster. We don't have enough time. It's like, okay, I'm gonna get dressed in the car, right? It's like you get to the destination before you're fully dressed. You're like, damn, I thought I had a little bit more time. So you're still unprepared. We've just gotten there. Or the word embarrassed, embarrass. You know what I'm saying? And this is where we are. We're embarrassed all the time because we're showing up to places and we're not prepared. We're not ready. So I think social media plays a major part because from the propaganda aspect. What happens now? We're intelligent people. What happens if next week, this whole Kirk Franklin thing was a farce? It's like, how much time do we spend talking about this? How much time do we spend looking at it? And it became a conversation piece. Should he have done it? Look at all of these things that transpire over a period of time.
That's why I unplug. I unplug from internet and stuff, just to keep my sanity sometimes, because it becomes addictive and you get wrapped up in this and that, and it's like, you know what, enough. I need to unplug, unwind, and just not pay attention.
The place that I was mentioning is called Freedom, Georgia. I don't know if you guys heard about it, but 19 families purchased over 90 acres of land. So the goal is to build a community for persons of color. I don't know how long it's going to last, but I think it's a great idea. It's revolutionary, built on cooperative economics. I think it's wise. I think we have to start trying to do different. We have to try to approach or solve the problems in different ways. I do think this though, and I'm struggling to say it because I don't want to believe. I'm struggling. Let me just put this out there first. There's a passage in the Bible where Jesus says the poor will always be among you, and maybe poor is not just poor as it relates to wealth. Maybe it also means poor in spirit, lack of consciousness. And so I think that there are always going to be people who not going to get it. There are always going to be people who are just so disconnected from themselves that they do themselves a disservice. I think that's just the reality. But I don't want to always focus on those people, because I think that there are some people who are growing and who are desiring to grow together and move the needle in as much as they can, who want to learn, who want to create communities of learning, communication, understanding. So there's always going to be them. And I hope that doesn't sound elitist.
Well, you know what? It does. It could if you don't understand what you're saying. Because what about the ones who recognize that we will always have poor people among us, right? So you know what they say? Fuck 'em. You know what I'm saying? You know, those are just, I mean, keep in mind, every time you pop popcorn, there's going to be certain kernels that you don't eat, right?
Mm-hmm.
You know, is anyone crying over that? I don't care how hungry you are. Is anyone crying over a burnt ass kernel that didn't mature enough to get popped? You know? So what we do, you know, we throw that shit to the side, you know. But you're right, Elena. I mean, I think that's not an elitist statement at all. But you have those people who look at people like us and just, you know.
It
Look,
sounds.
I'm not saying stop trying or any of that, or just throw these people to the side and whatever. But I think it's the reality, and I don't know. I was watching a pastor recently. He said, "I'm not here to pastor everybody, and I recognize that there's a certain baseline you need to be pastored by me. I want to invest my time in people who are willing to invest in themselves and their personal growth and development. And, look, I respect it. It's not saying that he doesn't touch people. Like, if you don't meet this baseline, just you ain't rolling with me. He didn't say that, but he said the bulk of my time, the great investment that I make, the greater part of that, I'm going to make that in the situations and the people where I know it'll make a difference. And to everybody else, love y'all. I'm going to continue to preach to y'all. We cool, we good, but that's not where I'm focused. And I don't know. It's like Jason's there. How do you help a brother who don't want to be saved? But look, there's somebody who wants to grow and evolve. And so that's what I'm trying to get up with.
What about the concept or the scripture that says, when you got 100 sheep and that one goes astray, go get it. You know what I'm saying? Go get it.
It's a tension in the text. Yeah, I think you don't just throw people to the wayside, but at the same time, I think we all make decisions about how and where we invest our time and our energy. And so, will I run after one? Sure, I've done it. I'm known for hunting people down and coming to find you where you are. But I'm not a tracker. I ain't doing that. You can be found if you want to be found. But if you just want to continue to roam, then roam on. And when we meet up, it's all love, But I don't know.
That thing that you talked about where they purchased the 90 acres of land, it kind of sounds like they're it reminded me of Tulsa back in the day.
Like Wall Street, yeah.
Yeah, that's what it reminded me of. Like they're trying, for us, by us.
What happens once that becomes developed? The same outcome? Because
I hope not.
That can break. It's like that can break his spirit. It's like pushing this big boulder all the way up to the top of the hill. As soon as you get there,
it rolls back. Mm-hmm.
Now we're starting all over. Stephen Covey has said that when you're creating habits for yourself, start off small. So if you don't believe in working out and doing exercise, or if it's a struggle for you, don't get hyped on New Year's Eve or New Year's Day saying you're going to commit to the gym and you're going to do 100 push-ups a day when you can't even do one. Just do one. Because once you set these lofty goals and you don't accomplish them, it has an effect on your self-esteem. And once you start chipping away at a person's self-esteem, it's a wrap. So what happens once folks build? We get the land, we get everything going. And watch, does history repeat itself all over again? Where we're up and coming. Maybe not in our generation. We're up and coming. We're blossoming. And all of a sudden, somebody decides they want to say that, they hear a whistle. His brother looked at a white woman. Next thing you know, you need a reason to burn the house down or burn down the whole community. So now we're back, and it's us again. Mess around, have this conversation. Be like, yo, this sounds familiar. It seems like I've seen this before. It's been
Deja vu.
That's all it is, and that's what's happening. I think all over again, man.
I wish them success with it. I think it's a great idea. I just hope that it's successful and that it stays successful.
Yeah.
You know, because anytime blacks are on the come up, whites find a way to tear it down just to keep us under their thumb. And I think that's the sad part.
I mean, look, it's not a panacea. I don't think that exists, but I think that we have to fight for freedom in every possible way that we can, in every arena that we can. So my hat's off to them, and I do. I hope that they're successful, and that their venture is fruitful.
One thing that it just hit me to acknowledge Marvin Hagler.
Oh yeah.
You know, who passed at 66 years old. You know, and just going back and remembering some of especially the fight that he had with Sugar Ray Leonard. You know, and when you look at him, to me, Sugar Ray Leonard was the man. You know what I'm saying? Marvin Hagler was like mean and nasty, which wasn't the case at all. They say he was a very, very nice guy. He was a pleasant guy. And he spoke his mind, and he was true to what he believed in. And, you know, I'm not saying he died because of this injection, but it was said that he just got the injection a week before. But nonetheless, you know, shout out to that brother in his life and what he brought in terms of entertainment and sportsmanship and showmanship to us, you know, and for all of the people that he inspired to go ahead and go out and be, you know, good husbands and fathers and businessmen and business people.
Exactamundo. Well, I know Elena said she had to roll at 6.
Oh yeah, 6:11. This was cool. I definitely like this conversation, and I think that I would love to see us talk a little bit more about education and educating Black children and what that looks like, because I also think that we leave too much of the development of our children to other people.
I agree.
And they expect very little to nothing out of our children, when our children have the potential to do so much more. And yeah, I think that schools built by persons of color for persons of color is definitely a place to start. Education, not just for children. Look, there's some old people. We need to be educated, right?
Yep.
I really do believe, and I don't think it's just because I'm a Christian. I really do believe that when you know the truth sets you free.
Mate.
But I think Amos is right. We're not free because there's some truths that we yet don't know.
The knowns and the unknowns.
Yeah.
They are known knowns and they are known unknowns. With things that we don't know that we don't know. Pulp Fiction.
And Donald Rumsfeld as well. But you know, it's amazing because, you know, Elena, with the scripture of the parable, you know, when given the talents, you know, and you came back.
Child, segregate me. Look, there are some. Ooh.
She said, sorry to play devil's advocate, but the other side of that coin is that it also teeters on the boundary of segregation. But you know what, Diana? I think we were better off when we were segregated, to be honest. I do. I think that we were better off when we were segregated.
We would have been equal had we been provided us with the same materials. We don't necessarily have to blend, you know. Back to the quick scripture is like, you know, the talents, you know. So what did you do with yours? I multiplied. Cool. What did you do with yours? I multiplied it. Bet. What did you do with yours? I hit it. Because I heard that you were a hard taskmaster, right? Well, who told you that? Well, I'll tell you what. Not only am I going to take what you already have, I'm going to take what you don't have. So this guy's in jeopardy, and he didn't answer the $400 question, and he ain't got no money, so he's at negative $400. So now he gotta either answer a $400 question to break even, you know, or he got to go higher than that. And this is where we are, you know. The unknown knowns. We don't even know that we don't know.
So Miss Brown I says, because we have fought so long to be a huge part of that inclusion, just to go back. And Yolanda said, I don't mind segregation.
So I'm not saying that we just need to be segregated and we can't never be around white people, but black people need to learn from black people. There's some things
Yes.
that look, I got to go, and this is good. This is exciting. So yeah, I'm not saying that we should segregate ourselves and never be around people of other cultures and races, because that's not indicative of who I am. But I do think that we have a mandate to teach ourselves, and no one else can teach us like we can. The problem, I feel like a great deal of the reason why we are where we are is because of the miseducation of the Negro, because we have allowed others to define us, and to define our history. And so that's why we are where we are. We can't trust the person who has campaigned for our demise to teach us. Like we can't trust that. And I think that history has proven that to be true. So I'm not saying that we have to be segregated in all facets of life, but I do believe as it relates to us growing as a people and having an African ethos, we're not gonna get that from white people. Look, as a person who's been into majority white institutions, I can tell you they are not gonna teach you about you. As a matter of fact, what they'll tell you is that your history is inferior and your sources are not credible.
It's because like how can we learn from?
They don't agree with their agenda. I mean, and just being young and naive and citing, some of the books that I loved at the time. Ivan Van Sertima, when they came before Columbus, but I was told, oh, this is not a credible source. Well, who says it's a credible source or it's not? Well, when it's Black and it doesn't agree with the majority narrative, it's not a credible source. And so until we have our own institutions, we don't even have access to our own history. How about that?
Yep. I mean, it's like, the oppressor is the one teaching that narrative. But then they teach the narrative, but then they want to make it seem like they're our savior at the same time. No.
All right. Well, I love y'all. This has been fun. Brooklyn, take care in Facebook, YouTube land. It's on the left hand side.
Okay, Elena.
Okay.
She says I agree to the teaching. Yeah, and it's just like what you were saying, less about, she says, my concern is that it solidifies in essence their current way of modern day segregation, gentrification. Yeah. You agree with that?
My concern is that it solidifies essence their current way. Yeah. I agree to the teachings. This is why I wish we could actually
see her.
Because of the delay, Yeah, I think it's funny because when we talk about segregation,
people look at it as a negative.
If we look at it, we had segregated restrooms. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Or showers. Even in dorms, every other room, every other floor may be male, female, but I don't think that when it comes down to Black people wanting to be segregated, that's a bad thing. Because it's important, coming from the position that we've come from, where it seems like we're always getting the short end of the stick.
Mm-hmm.
This is what I tell everybody, put yourself in a position, if you can, to have a dream where you are maybe female if you're male, white if you're black if you're white. So you get an opportunity to see how it really is. Because I've waken up from many dreams like, yo, I'm changing my mindset. You know what I'm saying? I can't believe that, this is what happens. Or if I had dreams where I ever got an opportunity to see myself for who I really was, which gave me an opportunity to make changes or go through a behavior modification, But we do need to get to a place where we are comfortable in saying what we need to say to each other without the information being taken away from us. You know, I was at work one time and we were in a heated debate. We weren't screaming and yelling. And the manager, who was from Nepal, he's like, "Why are you guys yelling and arguing and screaming at each other?" And we looked at him like, "No one is screaming at you. You look at that as though we're screaming at one another, which we're not. We're having a spirited debate, and we're showing some emotion, but we're not being violent." The same thing with Elena. Elena, within the last minute, it came out. You know what I'm saying? You know, she was talking about something that was very passionate. So a lot of times I'm looking at myself. A lot of times, you know, we're misunderstood. And when we're misunderstood, then we can't be who we need to be. Yeah, and I don't care who you are, you know.
Okay.
I'm finished. Going to the bathroom in front of everybody is not comfortable. This is why they have doors. So there are times in which we do need to incorporate segregation. Okay.
I guess, Steve, with the segregation thing, I look at it like this. There is already some segregation. You have like Chinatown, you've got
Little Italy.
You've got Little Havana. You know what I'm saying? Those are communities of those races who have built stores, restaurants, all of that and they don't exclude other people. It's just for them, by them, a place where they can go to get food, medicine, whatever it is for their culture. So what I'm saying is why can't blacks do the same thing? It's just that when we talk about segregation, it's always looked at as a negative thing. But you don't look at it as a negative thing when you go to DC and you go to Chinatown. They've got all their China art and this, that, and the other. You don't look at that as a bad thing.
Because they are needed, right?
Mm-hmm.
There is no plan for black people any longer. This is why Melinda Gates is screaming that black people should be the first people to get this vaccination. There is no plan for us. The only plan that they have for us was for us to be worker bees. Did you know in Virginia, are you familiar with Seven Corners?
Tyson's?
Not Tyson's, Seven Corners in Falls Church.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
The biggest Vietnamese community, from my understanding, in Virginia or America. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
And it is huge. And they're not discriminating, you know. Anyway,
same thing with the Jews.
Yeah,
The area that I was in Stevensville, I think, in Maryland. It's a huge Jewish community.
Right.
You know, and that's fine. That's fine.
Right. And no one's trying to change their culture. You go in and you adapt, right? When black people have a store or a community, you have outsiders who come in and start thinking, we can change this, we can change that, we can modify this. No one comes in to adapt. So you come in, when we go into a Korean town or a Vietnamese store, you know, I don't go in there with the mindset, you ain't got no collard greens. You know what I'm saying? The mindset, I'm in your home. You know what I'm saying? You've invited me to your table. I eat what you put in front of me. Not, yo, man, you know, how come you ain't got no Kool-Aid with grapes in it? You know,
mm-hmm. Where your hot sauce at? You
know, the black folks ketchup or salad dressing is hot sauce. You know, but for us, when we gather, you know, it's amazing because the Bible said, "Where there are two or three gathered in my name, I'll be in the midst." When two or three black people are gathered, it's a crime.
She says, "Oh no, I definitely understand the background as to why and how it could be beneficial. So I don't see it being wrong to want to live that way." Oh, okay, cool.
Okay, we're talking about segregation, right? Yeah, okay. Yeah, mm-hmm. This is why I wish we could see you. You know what I'm saying? When you go into someone else's house, you know what I'm saying? You chill out. You respect their culture. You respect their practice, the way in which they do things. If you don't like it, leave, but don't make a fuss. This, you know, And that's the problem when it comes down to black people. It's like how they treat us, and I'm not playing a victim role here, but it's like we should not be looked upon as prey every time. Look, go down Washington, D.C., go down 8th Street. Look what they did to 8th Street. When you got a Whole Foods on 8th Street, you got people sitting outside and eating. 20 years ago, 8th Street was crazy. 25 years ago, it was crazy.
I think the blacks and browns do already have those communities already, just not as predominant. I can agree for the browns. I don't see it for the blacks. And if I'm wrong, let me know, like an area or whatever. I can't think of it. Maybe in other states they do, but I don't know of any, like, in the DMV, because I know in Chinatown I went to one restaurant, wasn't a liquor, nothing was in English. Everything was in.
Gotcha.
And I was just like, how in the world do I had to order by picture. I couldn't read anything, and I told the lady what I wanted. I got what I wanted, but I thought at that point, that was really cool, because it was a lot of Asians down there. So I respected that.
And that's what it comes down to, respect.
Mm-hmm.
And we, as a race of people, we've never been respected.
Nope.
Never been respected. And no matter what we do, we will never, ever, ever, ever be respected.
Nope. It's sad.
It all goes back to slavery.
It does. It does. That. Mm-hmm.
Stop implanting us.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep. All right, y'all. I think we'll go ahead and end the show here. Because we talk about.
We're just going to continue at another time.
Yeah. Next week. We'll talk. We'll pick up. We'll pick up next week. So, hope everybody is staying safe. I hope you guys have a beautiful rest of your week. And peace out.